Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you here. And whether you're joining us at Celebrate Life or on our YouTube channel, we're glad to have you here. And so this is a wonderful opportunity and blessing for me to share with you some insights that I asked Spirit for, because I always wait for something to come to my mind before I share it as a talk or a lesson to the public. And so I'm coming to you today from a place called Oaxaca, Mexico. And the title of my talk is Living Your Legacy. Living Your Legacy. And this talk, for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with my talks and presentations, this one is unique. This one is different than usual. And because if you're familiar with my talks, usually the talks are punctuated with real life stories, how-to prescriptions, and inspiring quotes. This one is different in that the concept of the talk is about you. It's not just a how-to recipe for this or that, which I generally like. This one is very fundamental to you. It doesn't mean everyone's going to like it, but it is about everyone, and it has implications for everyone. Living your legacy is about your life, yours. And so it's my hope and my prayer that as I share with you for a few minutes today, this will be inspiring. And instead of being a how-to recipe to fix something, instead it will be something, hopefully, that will inspire and affect in a positive way your entire life. And in a few moments, very soon, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Part of what led me to this was recently, this last fall, I had the wonderful and unique opportunity to write my last will and testament. Some of you have done it, some of you have not. But when you write your last will and testament, you're literally making a list of everything that you own and possess, and kind of setting out guidelines or descriptions as to where it's going to go, to whom. Maybe someone wants this, maybe someone wants that. And you begin to, in a strange way, when I saw my life basically summed up, that my legacy, handing off to friends, family, loved ones, organizations, my legacy was sitting there in black and white print on a page. This relates to you too, all of us, because according to a couple of financial advisors I know, they said, you would be shocked, Reverend Drew, you'd be shocked at how many people don't prepare a last will and testament. Because apparently, if they avoid it, then they're not going to die. They're avoiding. But what an interesting experience that was for me to begin to decide legally on paper in black and white ink, well, black ink, where this and this was going to go. What are your priorities? What were my priorities? And so calling into question your life in a short couple paragraphs is really a strange thing. I found it very actually inspiring. It's that usually when we use the term legacy, and I've heard it in a variety of contexts, but usually the word legacy refers to what you're leaving when you pass. What you're leaving at the end of this life to donate here or give to this person. That's your legacy. As is typical with humans, that is a very physical or material kind of perspective. What about your spiritual legacy? What is your spiritual legacy that you're leaving humanity? When I began to think of my life as being something more valuable and more precious than this list I could put into two paragraphs, it had a positive effect. Now, again, it could rub us wrong if we think, oh, I'm not having an effect. I'll get to that negative voice or a realistic voice in just a moment. On the light side, I always like to infuse some funny things. years ago, my brother and I, we really liked to watch Greco-Roman movies. And in these movies, for some reason, if you notice, in most Greco-Roman movies, they all have British accents. For some reason, they hire a lot of British people to pose as Greeks and Romans in these movies. And somewhere along the lines, my brother and I heard a couple lines or phrases that we put together that sounded very lofty and important, especially with a British accent. And the phrase that we came up with was this: "You are the one for whom all generations have waited." And so we would say this to each other, kind of in a funny way when we weren't expecting it. You are the one for whom all generations have waited. Ooh, it sounds, I mean, where would you hear this? To a prophet, a savior, a Messiah? Oh, you're so important. People have been waiting for you. You are so important. People have been waiting for you. Now, I wasn't saying this to myself, but I began to think of the prophets and sages and spiritual teachers in the preparing of this talk. And I began to think of us literally being spiritual beings that maybe other people have waited for. Certainly, probably collectively, most people in this group have had difficult lives. But it's kind of hard to imagine the difficulty and the pain that many, many other people have gone through. Maybe it is the case that they have waited for you, for your positive effect, your positive prayers that cannot be diminished at all. And probably most people listening here believe that you are a soul. You believe in an eternal, immortal soul. So how beautiful, how glorious that as a spiritual being, you also came here to bless people. And when we begin to look at the negative aspect, as I mentioned a moment ago, oh, no one was waiting for me. I don't have much to contribute. Wait a minute. The foundation that we just agreed on, and almost everyone here will agree on, you believe in a soul. You are a divine soul first, and hair and limbs and body second. And while being a divine soul, you are here with infinite, unlimited access. Yes, to healing, to get the negativity out of the way, but also to dream, to manifest, to create the life that you want. Most of us are doing that. Some people say 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We get there. Most of us live pretty comfortably. But think about those 2 paragraphs of our legacy. What are we leaving behind? What are you spiritually leaving behind? And is this world around you going to be better when you leave? I hope it is. I don't want any monument about me. Nothing. I could care less. But I want the world to be better because I showed up, because I was here. I would hope to inspire you and have you ask that question, because to think, how is the world going to be better because you were here? What is your spiritual legacy that you're going to be leaving behind? I know people who've crossed over and they left in my heart, they left a spiritual impact. Their legacy to me is immeasurable. Immeasurable. But all it asked of them, or what was asked of them in their experience, little here, a little here, a little here, was to show up emotionally and spiritually for a stranger, or to show up emotionally and spiritually for me. A moment here and a moment there. And so I am forever changed because they were living their legacy. Their legacy was not just summed up in their last will and testament. I want my last will and testament to be about what I'm leaving emotionally and spiritually. When I begin to prioritize things that way, then my spiritual impact on the world is more important than the assets. Let me say that again. When I live with the priority of my spiritual legacy, everything is different. And it's not a list that someone else is going to judge me on. I'm not worried about judgment at all. Not worried about what other people think. And so don't feel negative or pressured about, am I accomplishing enough? Am I getting enough done for humanity? Did I save more whales or the forest or humans? This concept I'm sharing is that your spiritual legacy is something that you're living. The blessing and the talent and the love, the vision, the dreaming, the manifestation that you bring to your life is expressed while you're here, not just to be discovered later. No, while you're here, the living legacy. The living legacy is you walking and talking and breathing and manifesting. I love this idea that while I'm alive, yes, we get to learn about principles of manifestation. We get to learn about, gee, what's more important for the planet or for my community, this or that? What small impact can I make here and there? When we begin to live with that spiritual basis or from that spiritual perspective that I am a spiritual being, we can do no common thing thereafter. Because when we are living with that spiritual connection, that foundation, in that mindfulness, everything we do and our words and our thoughts are influenced by the quality of the soul. Our actions and our words, our priorities, our plans, they're not just accidental. They're coming from spirit, your spirit, and also the spirit beings who are assisting you, that you've asked for, that you're aligned with. And when we live from that foundational place of, I am a soul, I am spirit right now. I don't have to wait till later. I'm spirit right now. I can do no common thing when I'm coming from that place. No common thing. Infused with intuition, infused with love, compassion, insight, foreknowledge. Our priorities and plans begin to be infused with God's priorities, with Spirit's wisdom, not at a distance. We've already got the connection. The hard work is done. So what a beautiful idea to realize you are much more, because you already believe that, you're much more than your body. And you are infused, as long as you're willing and relaxing into it, with the love and the wisdom, even the foreplanning from Spirit about which is going to be a better path for you. What is going to be beneficial for you to live your legacy, live your values, so that it's not just on a piece of paper later that people read about. People will know your legacy by seeing how you act and talk and live today. We have a common saying here in Mexico, which is probably typical of many cultures. And the saying is, don't look at what that person does, but listen to their soul. Listen to their soul. When we show up coming from a place of the soul, we can do no common thing. When we are living our legacy, it is expressed in what we do and say all the time. What my priorities are when I'm alive, people will see it. What our priorities are when we pass, they'll see it summed up in black and white. And let's think about that. What am I doing? How am I living spiritually? Or am I just getting by? Am I living spiritually in a way that I'm going to be happy with? That when I get to my life assessment, am I going to be pleased with how I've done? I don't think there will be a negative judgment about that, but I think we will understand the idea of missed opportunities, unused talents. So we need not be hard on ourselves. But from that same place of manifestation and dreaming and planning, why not use our spiritual legacy right now, today, as we're living, to accomplish as much as we can for God now, because it's fun. It expresses our values spiritually. It expresses our heart. In so doing, we're building a lasting spiritual legacy for after we pass. And we're going to get over there to the other side someday with a smile on our faces. And we're going to look at ourselves, not be judged by strangers. We're going to look at ourselves and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Good job, soul. Good job. Because we lived out our spiritual values. And we lived out while we had the opportunity. When the rubber hits the road here, ooh, it's real. It's real tough. But it's so much easier to live in that state of manifestation, living our spiritual priorities. It's so much easier than missing out. Thank you. I wish you well on the road of manifestation, living your legacy, and enjoying eternity. God bless.